Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 151, and I'm continuing stories from 1001 Arabian Nights. Now, this next adventure involves a porter who lived in the city of Baghdad during a time when the Caliph Harun al-Rashid saw to all of the affairs of the city. Now that porter, he had a usual place that he sat in the city to await customers, people that needed things carried. And he had a large basket, which he often had to replace because it would wear out, which he would place on his shoulder or sometimes on his head to carry the items that the people wanted carried. While he was waiting, it was afternoon, and it was getting on in the day, and he'd had one calling earlier in the morning, but was hoping for at least one more customer in the day, when a beautiful woman came up to him and, without even introducing herself, said, "Please, come and follow me." Now, her appearance was dazzling, and her voice melodious. And the porter leapt to his feet and said, "I am at your service." And off she led, and him, saying to himself, "Oh, lucky meeting. Oh, lucky day." Well, he followed along after her, and she came to a doorway in a home, quite ordinary, and knocked upon it gently. An old man appeared with a great white beard, and when she saw him, she nodded, and off he went. No words were spoken. And when he came back, he brought with him a large vessel of wine, which he handed to the porter, who put it in his basket. The door was closed, and off they went. This woman telling the porter again, "Follow me." Well, they made their rounds through Baghdad, through the streets, purchasing things at one shop or another. They first went to a fruit and flower shop, and the woman bought apricots and peaches and figs and dates and nuts and beautiful fragrant flowers, jasmine being the nicest, which all were placed in the basket. From here, they went to another shop and bought a little of this, and then another, bought some of that. She bought candles. She bought chicken at the butcher's, and just everything that you can imagine that you would need for, well, not even just a meal, but for quite a number of days. The porter at a certain point turned to her and said, "Had I known you were going to buy enough food to, well, feed an entire town, I would have brought a horse, or better yet, a camel. Please, is there much more?" The woman turned to him and gave him, well, a look. She said, "Don't worry. We are on our way now. Please, come, follow me." So off he went, struggling a bit under the weight of this incredibly well-filled basket. Well, they made their way to a beautiful palace, and at one of the side doors, this woman again gently knocked. In a few moments, the door was opened by a woman that was, well, in the eyes of the porter, more beautiful than the woman who had employed him. And he stood there in quiet amazement. until finally the woman who had sought his employment in the very beginning turned to him and said, "What are you waiting for? Come, let's go in." Well, he was taken out of his, his dazzled state and entered into this palace with these two women. And as soon as the three were inside, the door was bolted, and in they went to an inner courtyard. And the porter's standing there, and he began to look around at everything that was there. And he noticed at the end of this courtyard, in a covered area, there was an elevated platform, and on top of it there was a throne. It was supported by 4 pillars that were encrusted with diamonds and pearls. In the middle of that courtyard there was a fountain, and this fountain, there was a lion there, and the water came out of its mouth and into the fountain, and everything was beautiful, like nothing he had really ever seen before. I stood there in amazement, taking it on in, still holding this basket on his shoulder, the weight of which was, extreme. Now there was a woman sitting in the throne, and as he began to make out her features, he saw that, if it could be, she was the fairest of them all. Now, her name was Zubaydah, and the woman who had sought him out, her name, Amina, and the porteress, or the doorkeeper, her name was Sadie. When Zubaydah saw what was going on, she said, "Porter, please, set your basket down. It looks like you are about to crumble underneath its weight." Well, the porter, having been given this instruction, he set his basket down. And Sadie and Amina quickly emptied its contents into the table that was close by. And the porter's basket having been emptied, he was given a large sum of money for his services. And what would have been expected, which would have been for him to pick up his basket and leave, did not happen. He stood there, taking everything in. The silence was finally broken by Zubaydah, who turned to the porter and said, "Did we not give you enough? Why is it that you are waiting?" And again, the porter kind of came out of this dazzled state that he was in. And he said, "Oh, no, please, I'm sorry. You've given me more than I deserve. But between the incredible beauty that I see before me and I don't just, the day and as it has gone, I just find myself lingering here, and I know not why. I'm just wondering, perhaps you would have me as your 4th at dinner tonight?" Well, this, of course, surprised Zubaydah, as it did Amina and Sadie. They all looked at each other and laughed a little bit, and then talked amongst each other. And Zubaydah said, "Fine." It agreed. You can stay. You can stay for dinner with us. But under the condition that you are, incredibly polite, that you mind your manners, and that you do not reveal to anyone this life that you see before you. Well, to this the porter agreed. And Amina and Sadie quickly went to placing the dishes, the table that they had made, and soon all were sitting down to dinner with candles lit. Well, at a certain point in time, Sadie, she took that large vase of wine and she poured quantity of it into a golden cup. And she first took it to Zubaydah, who had a long drought, and then to Amina, then she herself drank, and then she gave some to the porter. And the porter, after having taken a sip of this wine, or maybe a few, he broke out into a song, made up on the spot, in praise of wine and beautiful company. And the women were so taken by this song that he had come up with that, well, they responded in their own. And soon there was a beautiful merrymaking going on in that evening. And the sun had still not set. And after dinner had been finished and songs had been sung, and quite a bit of that wine had all disappeared, the porter was again asked to be on his way. He responded with, "My dears, how can you expect me to go on my way? I have been so dazzled by your beauty, and, well, I am so intoxicated by this wine that if you send me out, I will never find my way home. Please, allow me to stay until the morning, and then I will go, for surely then I will have regained my senses." Well, to this again, they all laughed. And Amina, who was, in a way, the porter's friend, she had originally employed him, she said, "Let him stay." And Zubaydah said, "My sister, if you wish him to stay, then he can. But it is, of course, only under one condition." And at this point, Scheherazade stopped to finish the story on another day. Okay, we'll stop it here as well and pick it up tomorrow. Thanks for joining.